For the first half of this, I want you guys to just close your eyes and try and envision yourself in this situation. Have you ever found yourself at the doctor's office, sitting in that waiting room, aggravated that you haven't been called back yet? The fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, the endless shuffling of papers, and that clock on the wall that seems to be moving backwards. You're already feeling unwell. Your throat is scratchy, your head is pounding, and all you can think about is getting some relief. Raise your hand if you've ever felt like that hour in the waiting room feel like an eternity. Yeah, it's not fun. There's something deeply similar to this that we've all encountered: God's waiting room. And let me tell you, it can feel like the worst place to be. We live in a world of instant gratification, instant messages, same-day delivery, streaming on demand. We're not used to waiting. And in God's waiting room, we often get impatient. We lose trust and start going our own ways that aren't godly because He's taking too long. Maybe you turn to unhealthy relationships, trying to fill that void ourselves. Maybe we try to control everything, thinking that we know better than God does. Or perhaps we numb the pain with endless distractions. Social media, entertainment, anything to avoid the silence of waiting. So how do we stay patient in the waiting? How do we trust in God's timing when everything in our culture screams for immediate results? Let me share something personal with you guys. For those who don't know, I love gymnastics. It's a sport I've dedicated 15 years of my life to. I started when I was probably like that big, and I'm still doing it. I've done competitive team for 8 years, and it's not easy. And you're probably thinking, how does gymnastics have anything to do with what I'm talking about? Well, let me tell you about last season. There I was, hands calloused, bleeding from the bars, body aching after another 4-hour practice. I remember standing there, staring at the bar, trying to master a skill I've been working on for months. But I couldn't see it. It felt so out of reach, like it was impossible. You'd think I'd basically be an Olympian by now, right? 4-hour trainings every other day, in the gym my whole life. No, it's not that easy. I feel like I work so hard, go through frustration, dedicate so much of my time to something not to win. I see all these other girls always constantly winning when they hardly put in the work. I train harder than ever, and I walk away without a medal or reward. Why, God? Why am I not good enough? Why can't I just win for once? Why is my work not paying off? But here's where God got my attention. In my frustration, I was reminded of Matthew 6:19-21. Do not store up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moths and vermin destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But store up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where moths and vermin do not destroy and where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also. I'm going to repeat that last part. For where your treasure is, there your hearts will be also. So if we set our mind on things up above rather than the things on earth, life will just be so much easier. Let's break this down for a moment. When we're focused on earthly trophies, what happens? They tarnish, they collect dust, and they can be stolen or broken. 20 years from now, who's going to remember who won the state championship? But the character God builds in us while we wait, that's eternal. The patience, perseverance, and trust we develop, those are treasures that cannot be stolen or destroyed. Think about the great waiting room of the Bible. Abraham waited 25 years for his promised son, and Joseph spent years in prison before his purpose was revealed. Their waiting wasn't wasted. It was preparation. The reward isn't a medal or trophy. The reward is everlasting peace and joy. The reward is Jesus' forgiveness and the character He makes us to be. If we prioritize Jesus and focus on the things up above, everything will fall into place. There will be a moment when God's timing becomes clear. The chains will lift, the frustration will calm, and all will be well. This week, when you find yourself in any kind of waiting room, literal or spiritual, I want you to pause and ask yourself, what is God trying to teach me in this season? What character is He trying to build in me? I'm learning that sometimes the waiting room is where God does His best work in us. Remember that door, when that door finally opens, the wait becomes worth it. The same is true with God. His timing is perfect, even though we can't see it. The question is, are you trusting Him in the waiting? Before I leave, I want everyone to ask themselves these questions. Are you focused on the earthly things or the things up above? What treasures are you storing up? What are you really waiting for? And most importantly, how might God be using you in this waiting period to shape you to who He's calling you to be? Thank you.